What is going on, everyone? My name is Drew Spencer with the React and Attack Football Podcast, where we try and go over NFL content from all 32 teams every single day. And boy, oh boy, there's always something going on in the NFL world. And if you like what you hear, make sure to like and subscribe. And let's go. Relentless. That was the word the head coach, Mike LaFleur, used to describe his defense in their absolute trashing of the Washington Commanders last night. And I'm just going to jump right into this about the defense, man. Um, Taking first a look at their defensive line. And we all knew when they made the move to get Micah Parsons, everyone knew that this team was going to be good. Their defense got scary. And last year, they really needed someone like Mike. After last year, they really needed someone like Micah Parsons to come in. And now you see the full effects, man. This defensive line can rotate guys and generally get you from everywhere with so much pressure. It isn't just Micah, but I will talk about Micah first because he's the crown jewel right now. And especially after watching that game and the broadcast, we all saw how much Micah means to this team. And he comes in and plays 44 snaps this week. So about another 20 more than he did week one. And Micah Parsons was everywhere. They utilized him all over on this defensive front. Sometimes just hand in the dirt, typical 4-3 edge rush, get to him. Other times, right from the middle, interior, coming in on their gap, while someone like Devontae Wyatt, for instance, kind of slides in along with maybe someone like a Luke Ness or Rashawn Gary from time to time. He can come in. Sometimes he drop back in coverage or stayed from a little bit of like a more traditional linebacker role and then blitzed in. I mean, they used him literally everywhere. They had him line against Laramie Tunsil and destroy him, but then the next play, have him lined up against the left guard and put in pressure there. He ended the game with an incredible stat: 8 quarterback pressures total, but a pass rush win percentage stat of 30%. The league average so far this year, and yes, I'll bet it's a small sample size, is 16%. Micah Parsons is on a different level, and the Packers know how they want to utilize him. A lot of credit to Jeff Hafley there. And because of how they used him and schemed him up and got creative with him, the rest of the defense was able to fly around and make more plays. This year, they're not relying on Lucas Van Ness, to shoulder that burden. Now it's like, hey, move these guys around, rotate them inside, keep these guys on the outside if we need to. Everyone is just going to be fresh and ready to go, and we know our assignments. Edgerrin Cooper, I mentioned him earlier as well. He is a freak. He's going to become a household name by the end of this year. He's been solid for the Packers for a while, but I just, again, man, he's wow, he is taking another step. Um, he was great in coverage. I'm pretty sure he was getting his hand up in there and just reacting and attacking every aspect of the field that he was meant to cover. And if some ball carrier got there, he would get a tackle. If Jaden Daniels was there, he acted as a spy. Um, just an unreal defensive performance, man. Um, wow, it's it's crazy. And now moving on to this Packers offense. Jordan Love started this game, the first half, unreal. Um, he had 230 yards about heading into halftime. Um, And there was a lot of good at the beginning for this offense, man. It seemed that again this Packers offensive line is just able to let Jordan Love sit back and relax and get things going. Some very innovative play calling there by Matt LaFleur to get things going. But the real hero was Tucker Kraft, the tight end for the Packers, as he was doing everything and gave me George Kittle impressions as he was destroying guys in the run game, just running up the field. I mean, he had such this awesome crackback block and just totally annihilated a guy for Josh Jacobs to get a first down. And then on top of that, he had over 120 receiving yards, had a touchdown, did the Lambeau leap. I mean, this guy was fantastic last night, and was the main target, and he almost seemed unstoppable. But then the second half comes around, and after the momentum, I think of a missed field goal towards the end of the half, they came out, and the Packers offense was sluggish. Because as I alluded to, Jordan Love in the first half had damn near 230 yards. Well, he ended the game with about 298, and it's still overall really good game, right? But they definitely didn't ask him to throw as much in the second. But even then, when he was asked, it seemed that this Commanders defense, we'll get into them, they start locking down a little bit. But Jordan Love was missing some throws, trying to get a little too, wanted to ice the game quicker, wanted to take some deep shots, and that's just part of Jordan Love's game, dating back to even his time in Utah. Um, and so, still a really, really good game, but it was night and day with the offenses between the halves. And I think Packer fans know that. I think it wasn't a big deal in this case because of just obviously the dominance of this Packers defense. Uh, it didn't really seem to matter. And it was still a good game, good half for this offense that you can definitely build upon. And you feel good walking away with the win here. Just an absolute win here for the Packers. Dare I say they look like the best team in the NFL right now in terms of just being complete. Now, there is some losses, though. Jaden Reed goes down with a broken collarbone. Not sure the timetable for that, but I mean, sounds pretty bad. Expect him to miss some time. Um, that's a big time loss for this team that, again, they are overall complete outside of maybe the receiver room. Is Romeo Dobbs going to be someone, and do we worry about his, unfortunate concussion history? Is it going to be someone like Dontavian Wicks who can step up? Obviously, Matthew Golden. Again, that's really where we're at with this Packers offense. Is I feel really good about the trenches. I feel really good about Jordan Love. Josh Jacobs has scored a touchdown like damn near every game that he's played as a Packer. I don't worry about that. I I worry about these receivers and as the going gets thick, but this Packers overall team, this entire unit is destined to 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 do something in the NFC playoffs this year. I really think so. They're going to be a tough out, barring any more catastrophe for them. But wow, what an absolute win for the Packers here. But for the Commanders, not a very gushing review, to say the least. And um, we'll start unfortunately with the injuries that they sustained as they did. Uh, unfortunately, had two players go down in Dietrich Wise, former Patriot defensive lineman. Um, it looked bad. Looked like an offensive lineman was pushed. While his back of his leg, while it was extended. Just yikes! Just absolutely brutal. Hope he's gonna be all right. And then unfortunately, Austin Eckler, who has been a stud for a long time, a little bit older now, but an Achilles tear, no contact injury, just running around. And those are the worst things to see when watching football is when you just see a player all of a sudden and in the replay just do a normal cut sometimes a jump or a jog, and they fall to the ground. And yeah, a massive loss. And, we're going to see a lot more from Jacorian. Uh, yeah. Sorry. His name's escaping me out the top of my head, the rookie, but we're going to see a lot of him and moving forward. And then with, um, breaking down further with Jaden Daniels in this offense, I thought Jaden Daniels was overwhelmed obviously by this defense, so I'm not going to sit here and be like, "Oh, he had a terrible game," but since they bought him up so well, he wasn't able, even though he tried to create and scramble, they had someone on him for that, and seemed like the throws were, errant or sometimes some miscommunication. And that's one of the big things I wanted to bring up, because this team went through a big holdout with their star receiver, Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, absolute menace of a receiver, but he holds out all year. They finally pay him. Um, it was a no brainer to obviously pay the guy. But this is what worries me a little bit. And they obviously had great connection last year, but you got to think, when this guy was holding out towards the end there, you're losing reps. You're losing some and gaining a little bit more rust, or not shedding off enough rust, I should say, from the prior season with your quarterback if you are missing that time. And it just seems these past 2 weeks there's been some throws to him, and sometimes Jaden's off the mark. Other times it seems McLaurin's a little bit behind the ball because it was like, wait, that was coming to me. I didn't realize, and not getting that spot again. I'd have to look more at the tape, but it just seems something's off with these two, um, and that is not a good sign. And and I think they're gonna get back on the swing of things again. This Packers defense, wow, but it worries me. And uh, so then they got Debo Samuel finally going at the end of the game. I still think they need to get him more involved. And maybe again, it's just this wide receiver duo trying to gain more connection with their star quarterback. At least early on in this season, it's looking like. But it doesn't help that this offensive line got absolutely demolished. Laramie Tunsil had a few offensive, holds and a couple false starts, as we're accustomed to, um, from Larry Tunsil, even though he's a hell of a player. But, he was getting worried. And then on the other side, the more egregious thing is that rookie Josh Connerly Jr. out of Oregon, who I kind of I figured that, yeah, he could be a good first round pick, somewhere in that range, or maybe early second, but more developmental guy. And they drafted him to slot in right away, be the right tackle. And again, it's not his fault. And it wasn't, but he obviously struggled with Micah Parsons when they sent him from that side. But it wasn't just Micah Parsons that he had a problem with. And it really didn't seem that they were trying to use, tight ends or running backs to really help chip. And they kind of put Josh Connerly Jr. out on an island, and he got worked, man. Um, so that is a concern for this Commanders team. Uh, Again, he's gonna get better. I considered him more of a project, but and it's not fair. Again, like I said, he's going up against someone like Micah Parsons on some of those losses. So, yeah. Um, Going into their defense, Commanders had some nice things going in the second half. We saw this Commanders defense in the second half definitely tighten up a little bit more, and it was nice to see. Um, Again, I as I alluded to earlier, the Packers offense stalled. Well, a lot of it was also due to the Commanders defense started getting a little bit better. What main worry that I had about this Commanders defense as a whole through the game is that Marshawn Lattimore, he was getting rocked, he was getting worked, um, by young receivers. Not good to see. And it kind of, This Commanders roster on defense is one of the oldest in the league, and it kind of showed. I still think Bobby Wagner, for instance, has got a lot of juice in him. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, no question. But you can tell that this guy is, he's losing that step. He still has such a great instinct and such a sure tackler that I don't want to dog on this guy. But you can see the age. You can see the age in this D line again, as I alluded to. They're kind of missing a true edge presence. They got guys out the interior did well, and that we saw that. We saw that in the second half when they started to put it up. By that time, it was a little too little, too late, right? Uh, and a parting note that a thought that I had about this Commanders team is Cliff Kingsbury. I've kind of wondered if he's kind of a season wonder with whatever offense he employs. And it almost looks like it gets solved so quickly, especially for, you know, obviously really good roster defense and, but even what Jeff Halfley was calling out against Cliff Kingsbury just shut it down, man. Like they were still trying to call, screens way down there, way by, losing by a few. They were still, it just wasn't meshing, man. They went for it on multiple fourth downs, even one at the end of the third quarter, because they were playing from behind. And eventually they got a touchdown to put it within a bit of a game, but by that time it was over. But, that's, again, it's one game against an elite defense, but I just, it reminded me a bit of his time with Arizona, where he had some good moments leading the play calling there for Kyler Murray and a pretty stacked offense at the time back then for Arizona. And then it just seemed that as the year progressed, that same offense was, a tenth of what it used to be, right? And I kind of wonder if that's what's going on right now. So just my parting thoughts on it. It was a good game. Uh, Not all doom and gloom for the Commanders, though. I really don't think we should, again, lost to a very good team. So excited to see where these two teams go forward. And thanks.